There really isn't a whole lot of in-between when it comes to Coach Prime in Colorado. Most people either love them or they can't stand them. But at this point in the season, they're 6-2. They're still in the conference title hunt, possibly the playoff hunt. And even though you may not like how the sausage is made, breakfast sure does taste pretty good right now out there in Boulder, Colorado. We can argue whether it's more of the Big 12 being down somewhat or Colorado just being that much better. You can scream that it's all going to go away once Shadur and Travis Hunter leave, but you can't argue with the results right now. Colorado isn't just surviving, they are thriving. And it's not solely because of the skill position. In fact, I could argue their come up has been more about the line of scrimmage punching above their weight. We knew the Buffs had studs on the outside and at quarterback, but the biggest worry, and it was a very warranted worry, was that the offensive line and the defensive line is what would hold them back. Because you can believe whatever you want, but the truth about football will always be that it's a game that is won and lost up front. Now, is Colorado elite on either side of the line of scrimmage? No, but they don't have to be because they are in some other areas. They just had to be good enough up front. And over halfway through this year, they have been. So you can not like the way Prime operates or Signetti operates or anybody else operates, but you have to respect the result. And so far in 2024, Colorado has proven many people wrong. And who knows what the future will look like, but the president is spoken for, and Colorado is absolutely eating right now. David Cohn, another guy who loves to eat, can eat a lot.
That's true.
That's a 6'7" giant of a man from a Michigan quarterback. And then my brother, as you can tell, very cordial individual, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. That was a compliment. Be quiet. Coney.
Didn't feel like it.
It was. Maybe backhanded, but it was. When you look at Colorado, we've talked about it, and there's some things I like about the way they operate. There's some things I don't, but it's like that for me for everybody, right? And Colorado isn't everybody's cup of tea. But what they've done this year is really, really impressive. And it goes to show you that, you know, Prime may be somewhat new to this, and I know a lot of it has to do with having Shadur and having Travis, but he did get them there. And at the end of the day, the result on the field is what matters the most. I mean, they're 6-2, man.
Also, there seem to be fewer distractions out there in Boulder right now than last year, but even than at the beginning of the year. And the most impressive things for me so far are they look like a team that continues to improve throughout the season, right? This isn't a situation where Deion Sanders has just assembled all sorts of top talent, but then they don't develop them and coach them throughout the season. It looks like this team is getting better throughout the year. Couple stats here to back that up. One, Colorado hasn't lost the turnover battle to any opponent since the loss to Nebraska. And keep in mind, that was the worst loss of them for the season. They also rushed for 16 yards in that game. Fast forward to their loss against Kansas State, they rushed for negative 29 yards, right? Like those are two bad statistics. In the 2 weeks since that Kansas State loss, they've outrushed their opponents and they've rushed for over 100 yards in each of those two games. They're clearly making an effort to get the ground game working because of all the elite pieces they have on the outside. They say, hey, we're going to be able to move the football down the field. We have to control the line of scrimmage more, and I think they're making an effort to do that. If you look at their schedule moving forward, you go on the road to Texas Tech, you get Utah at home, Kansas on the road, and then Oklahoma State at home. They are favored in every one of those football games. And so the question, I think that's worth talking about is if you were to win those 4 games, you'd be 10-2. Obviously, you still lose the head-to-head to Kansas State, and you don't get a crack at either one of the top 2 teams in the conference right now, BYU or Iowa State. So you need some help. They don't control their own destiny. But would you rather finish the season 10-2 and not even make it into the conference championship, so there's no opportunity to pick up a third loss, but there's also no opportunity to get the automatic qualifier into the college football playoff? Or would you rather go 10-2, win out, stay out of the conference championship, and just hope the Deion Sanders brand is big enough to get you in at 10-2?
Well, that's the scenarios we've been kind of wargaming. Is the loser of the conference championship game, or is it worth it for some of these teams? And I think it depends on your conference, unless you have some sort of asterisk that pulls you over the line or that is so big, right, that they almost have to put you in. It would be business malpractice, because don't forget, this is a business. It would be business malpractice for them not to put you in. Because you can say whatever you want about meritocracy. After what they did to Florida State last year, I believe they'll do anything, whether it's a 14 playoff, 18 playoff, or 12-team playoff. So to me, for the scenario to work out where Colorado, they want chaos in the Big 12. They want BYU to lose. They want Iowa State to lose. And I think they should want a shot at the conference championship game because it gets you that automatic bid. But until we know how any of this stuff works out, I don't think it's a crazy thing at all to say a 10-2 Colorado team out of the Big 12 would be very, very attractive. And I don't think they would need as much chaos on the outside as some other teams would need. And I'm talking about the ACC and the Big 12, not the Big 10 and the SEC. I think 10-2 pretty much locks you into the playoff in those two conferences. But Blaine, if you're on the committee and they've talked about, some of the qualifications to get in the playoff, obviously record, strength of schedule, but you've heard people talk about ticket sales and they want views and they want clicks. And if Prime has a chance to get into the playoff,
they're putting them in the playoff.
I think they would be willing to piss off a lot of people to put Colorado on.
Oh, the sacrifices they're willing to make to put Colorado, Shedeur Sanders, and Travis Hunter in the playoff. If they go 10-2, they're in.
Even if they don't play in the conference championship?
Yeah, they're in. They'll get put over so many teams. So many teams just because of the ticket sales, just because of the ratings. Look, if I'm Deion Sanders and I'm Colorado, I'm trying to get out everything this year. I'm trying to get every last drop of the squeeze out of Colorado because he's done after this.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. And here's why. Let me just tell you why, and then you tell me why you think that.
Okay.
My question for Deion Sanders wasn't could he get talent to Colorado, regardless of how he went about it, whether it was out of high school or the transfer portal or whatever. That was never my question. Okay, and I don't think it should be a question. I think Deion is going to have, especially when you see where like Shedeur and all these guys are going to get drafted and Travis Hunter. My question wasn't about him getting talent there. It was being a new head coach, and he still was somewhat of a new head coach. I know he was in the HBCU, then he came over here. It's structurally. It's the machine. Can you do all the things to keep the culture where it's supposed to be and keep the machine operating like it is well-oiled in all of the aspects? Because the head coach's job isn't just to bring in talent. There's so much more that comes along with that. And Deion, it's almost extra with what he has to bring. And it's proven to me, back to David's point, when you look at the way this team has grown and evolved, that structurally they have something figured out. Like he isn't lost in the wilderness trying to figure out how to put this organization together, because that's what it is. So if the question is he going to be over because he can't bring talent in? I think that is the best case scenario if you're a Colorado fan, because there's no way in hell that Prime isn't going to be able to get top players to go to Colorado, whether that's from the transfer portal, whether that's from high school, whatever. You got Jordan Seaton last year, #1 overall offensive lineman in the country, who's playing. He's pretty damn good as a freshman. They'll have Juju Lewis. I think there's a really good chance they're going to get him to a quarterback. So if it comes down to getting talent in there, that is best case scenario if I'm a Colorado fan, because I think they're going to stay with talent.
That would never be a problem, though, right?
No.
That's not what you're saying, is it?
No, it's not. Two things. One, I think he's probably going to follow his son. Wherever he gets drafted to in the NFL, depends on where he goes. Two, I just think Deion will get a better job at a better school. At a bigger school. I don't know where exactly yet. We'll see what shakes out. But I feel like he will have, just like Signetti in his first year, will have the opportunity to go somewhere bigger. I think Deion will, what he's done at Colorado, will have the opportunity to get a better job.
So if Colorado goes 10-2 and they put him in the playoff, why would Prime want to leave when they just put a 10-2 coach team that he just got hot, that's really hot right now, that he can coach at forever because they're going to love him?
For a better job, for like
more
money in NIL, better for
Colorado find a way to get him money.
Conference.
Colorado find a way to get him money. I don't think there's a money problem.
So you don't think there's any job that he would go to that's better than Colorado?
I wouldn't say that. I think the NFL is probably a better possibility than what college is. I think if he left Colorado, it would be to go to the NFL. They're not going to fire Mike Norvell.
You undercut his best asset, though, which is what you said, recruiting. Like in college, it's the same thing with Nick Saban. Why would I go to the NFL and get one first-round draft pick when I can go to college and get 20 of them in the same class? And that's what Deion Sanders' strength is. So why would you just go to the NFL and be a head coach when the general manager is the one assembling the team?
Because I think Deion Sanders, in order to take that NFL job, would have so much cachet, because I think he's still got more cachet in the NFL than he does in college. I mean, if you remember Deion Sanders, yeah, we can go back to his Florida State playing days, and that was huge, but people remember him with the Cowboys. So to me, I think he views himself as one of the best coaches in the country, and the NFL is the top level of football in the country. I just think he's that type of guy. Now, here's the real thing. Do I think he loves recruiting? I really don't think he does that much. I don't think he doesn't even go do in-home visits. Like, so in the NFL, you are picking who you want. Now, when it comes down to Shedeur and where he goes, I I think Prime would like to do that. That'd be something that'd be cool. But don't you think it'd be hard for like an open NFL job to then take Shadur or hire Prime first? Like, how would that work out? Does he pull an Eli Manning and say, if this team drafts me, I'm not going to go. This team's going to hire my dad, so I'm going to go here. I don't know.
I just saw Bronny James run out on the court with his dad, and then
that's another great
promoted to a whole different league
point.
after getting drafted. So.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on the team too and what situation they're in. But I do think, like, if USC called Prime.
But they're not going to fire Lincoln Riley this year. They're not going to fire him this year.
If Ole Miss.
So if Lane Kiffin went to Florida, you think Deion Sanders is going to go to Ole Miss? He's going to go to Mississippi?
You think he'd take that job?
I don't think he would.
Florida State.
They're not going to fire Mike Norvell.
If they did.
Well, if a giraffe came in here on roller skates, I'd be afraid. That's not going to happen.
Ohio State.
I think Ohio State could be one of the few where he would look at it. I think he'd be crazy not to look at it, but I think he'd probably leverage that back with Colorado. I don't
always seen it as a guy who wanted to coach his kids in college.
And then
he wanted to coach his
NFL?
kids in college. I don't know about the NFL. I don't know why an NFL team would say, yeah, I'll hire Deion Sanders to be the head coach when he can't. It's not about recruiting at the NFL level. And they just had two generational talents who might go number 1 and number 2 overall. And you're playing in one of the weaker conferences in college football, and that's justification for hiring, unless it's just a brand play.
But that's who Deion is.
But then, so at that level, who are you bringing in as the coordinator? I guess are the big questions. Like, who's calling plays at that point?
I can't.
It seems like he would be able to follow the Nick Saban route so much more in college.
Well, David, I think you're right, but I think you're looking at this from a different point of view than what he's looking at it from. That's just my opinion. Again, I don't know him. We don't know him personally. We've interacted on social media a couple times, but part of me thinks that, Deion Sanders views himself as an NFL coach. I feel like he's the type where if I'm going to get into something, I want to go to the highest level. Right? In the NFL, we all know this. We talk about this all the time. It's way different than colleges. I actually think, with the way they recycle coaches, who the hell knows? Dirk Cutter may end up being his OC. You know how it goes in that league. Part of me thinks that Prime, and to your point, if he just wanted to coach his kids in college, then why not try and coach them in the NFL?
You see what I'm saying, though? Like, if you're Colorado, it makes complete sense. Like, let's hire Deion Sanders, and he will be a magnet for talent, which is exactly what's happened, right? Yep. For a program that won 1 game before he got there that's been down and out. If you're an NFL team, that magnet doesn't maybe his son could say, I'm not going to play anywhere that my dad's not the coach.
What do you think, free agents would
Maybe
want
you
to
could
go
leverage one guy. The free agency thing could be interesting for sure. But, again, I think a free agent is thinking, well, where can I make the most money? There's still salary cap consideration. There's still state taxes considerations, depending on which team you would go to. So it's not like you can just go anywhere you want as of an open transfer portal in college.
It's going to be fascinating to see. And if he stays at Colorado, to see what happens next year and see what kind of methodology he uses to try and amplify that roster to replace what he's lost. Nobody knows but Prime, but it's a fun conversation. We want to know what you guys think. YouTube, so glad you showed up to the meeting. Hit that subscribe button or you're fired.